जय गुरुदेव। तो ये कितना बढ़िया बात हो गई है कि सब इट्स नॉट अ स्मॉल थिंग, नो, टू बी अवेलेबल ईच डे। हम जब संकल्प लेते हैं तो देखो संघ का जो शक्ति है वो कितना पावरफुल है, और साथ में गुरुदेव का संकल्प रहता है तो ये एकदम आसानी से हो सकता है ना। तो आप खुद का तो पीठ थपथपाइए कि आप हर रोज, है ना, टाइम पर आ जाते हैं ये सुनने के लिए। और जो बाकी भी लोग यहाँ पर जुड़े हैं का भी आभार मानिए मन ही मन, कि सब आते हैं तो कलेक्टिवली ये संकल्प पूरा होता है ना। वेरी गुड। तो आप में से कुछ लोग पूछ रहे थे हमको अलग से, चैट पे कुछ प्रश्न आते हैं, तो ज्यादा तो समय होता नहीं है, हम सिर्फ गीता का पारायण ही ये करते हैं। तो ये पुस्तक कौन सी है जो हम रेफर कर रहे हैं जिसमें ये चैंटिंग वगैरह है, तो ये गुरुदेव का रेकमेंड किया हुआ गीता प्रेस का बुक है। आप चाहिए तो उनके वेबसाइट में जाके उसको डाउनलोड कर सकते हैं। गीता प्रेस इज व्हाट गुरुदेव हैज रेकमेंडेड, एंड वही ट्रांसलेशंस और वही पीडीएफ जो हम शेयर कर रहे हैं वो अ, अपना जो चैंटिंग चल रहा है यहाँ पर वो नरसिम्हा पुट्टूर जी का है, जो हमारे आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग ऐप में अवेलेबल है। आप अगर ऐप पे सब्सक्राइब किए हुए हैं तो आप उस पे डालेंगे भगवत गीता, you will be able to get that. So we are playing that chanting and then we are reading through that book, है ना। Also some of you were suggesting you want to contribute and all of that, तो उसके लिए हम कोई प्रोविजन रखेंगे क्योंकि अभी नवरात्रि आ रहा है। तो एक महायज्ञ बड़ा फेस्टिवल है आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग में, सभी जानते हैं बैंगलोर आश्रम में लाखों लोग आते हैं, है ना। तो वहाँ काफी सारी तैयारी होती है और बहुत सारा अपॉर्चुनिटी होता है। हाँ, वस्त्रदान है, अन्नदान है, ऐसे भिन्न भिन्न ये अवसर रहेंगे। तो हम डेफिनेटली आपसे कनेक्टेड हैं, तो हम जरूर आपको बताएंगे वो। हमारी तरफ से अगर हमको लगता भी है कंट्रीब्यूशन, तो for us as organizers the contribution is that all of you all are present here, that brings us so much joy। इसके पीछे बहुत सारे टीचर्स लगते हैं, जुड़ते हैं, प्रवीण जी, ज्योति, ओइशी, पूजा जी, so many people are there। For us that is okay, but if you feel something that you want to give, then that is the opportune time। I think Navaratri will be a good festival where you can contribute। Yes, so we will share the details with you, and there of course we encourage you to participate and donate। So very nice। Let us, yeah, by the time people were joining I just thought we will quickly have a quick chat। तो बहुत बढ़िया, stay put, we have few more days and we are sure we will be going through this entire Bhagavad Gita। 29th तक हम ये पूरा कर देंगे, and there will be surprise element also like we said। So you may have a senior faculty who might join us perhaps on the last day, and you don't know some other better surprise than this, so let the surprise be a surprise। Okay, yeah, so enough talking, let us close our eyes and fold our hands, we chant Om 3 times। ओ ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनामधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
अथ षष्ठोऽध्यायः ध्यानयोगः। श्रीभगवानुवाच अनाश्रितः कर्मफलं कार्यं कर्म करोति यः स सन्न्यासी च योगी च न निरग्निर्न चाक्रियः। यं सन्न्यासमिति प्राहुर्योगं तं विद्धि पाण्डव न ह्यसन्न्यस्तसङ्कल्पो योगी भवति कश्चन। आरुरुक्षोर्मुनेर्योगं कर्मकारणमुच्यते योगारूढस्य तस्यैव शमः कारणमुच्यते। यदा हिनेन्द्रियार्थेषु न कर्मस्वनुषज्यते सर्वसङ्कल्पसन्न्यासी योगारूढस्तदोच्यते। उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानं नात्मानमवसादयेत् आत्मैव ह्यात्मनो बन्धुः आत्मैव रिपुरात्मनः। बन्धुरात्मात्मनस्तस्य येनात्मैवात्मना जितः अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे वर्तेतात्मैव शत्रुवत्। जितात्मनः प्रशान्तस्य परमात्मा समाहितः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयोः। ज्ञानविज्ञानतृप्तात्मा कूटस्थो विजितेन्द्रियः युक्त इत्युच्यते योगी समलोष्टाश्मकाञ्चनः। सृहन्मित्रार्युदासीन मध्यस्थद्वेष्यबन्धुषु साधुष्वपि च पापेषु समबुद्धिर्विशिष्यते। योगी युञ्जीत सततम् आत्मानं रहसि स्थितः एकाकीयत चित्तात्मा निराशीरपरिग्रहः। शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरमासनमात्मनः नात्युच्छ्रितं नातिनीचं चेलाजिनकुशोत्तरम्। तत्रैकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यतचित्तेन्द्रियक्रियः उपविश्यासने युञ्ज्याद् योगमात्मविशुद्धये। समं कायशिरोग्रीवं धारयन्नचलं स्थिरः सम्प्रेक्ष्य नासिकाग्रं स्वं दिशश्चानवलोकयन्। प्रशान्तात्मा विगतभिर्ब्रह्मचारिव्रते स्थितः मनः संयम्य युक्त आसीत मत्परः। यञ्जन्नेवं सदात्मानं योगी नियतमानसः शान्तिं निर्वाणपरमां मत्संस्थामधिगच्छति। नात्यश्नतस्तु योगोऽस्ति न चैकान्तमनश्नतः न चातिस्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन। युक्ताहारविहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः यदा विनियतं चित्तम् आत्मन्येवावतिष्ठते निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्त इत्युच्यते तदा यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः यत्रो परमते चित्तम् निरुद्धं योगसेवया यत्र चैवात्मनात्मानं पश्यनात्मनि तुष्यति सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तत् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायं स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यतेनाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते तं विद्यात् दुःखसंयोगवियोगं योगसंज्ञितं स निश्चयेन योक्तव्यो योगोर्निर्विण्णचेतसा संकल्पप्रभवान् कामान् त्यक्त्वा सर्वान् अशेषतः मनसैवेन्द्रियग्रामं विनियम्य समन्ततः शनैः शनैरुपरमेत् बुद्ध्या धृतिगृहीतया आत्मसंस्थं मनः कृत्वा न किञ्चिदपि चिन्तयेत्.
Chapter 6 Translation. Sri Bhagavan said, "He who does his duty without expecting fruit of actions is a sannyasi, a Sankhya yogi, and a yogi, karma yogi, both. He is no sannyasi or renouncer who has merely renounced the sacred fire. Even so, he is no yogi who has merely given up all activity. Arjun, you must know that what they call sannyas is no other than yoga. For none becomes a yogi who has not abandoned his sankalpas or thoughts of the world. To the contemplative soul who desires to attain karma yoga, selfless action is said to be the means. For the same man, when he is established in yoga, absence of all sankalps is said to be the way to blessedness. When a man ceases to have any attachment for the objects of senses and for actions, and has renounced all sankalpas, he is said to have attained yoga. One should lift oneself by one's own efforts and should not degrade oneself, for one's own self is one's friend, and one's own self is one's enemy. One's own self is the friend of the soul, by whom the lower self, consisting of the mind, senses, and body, has been conquered. Even so, the very self of him who has not conquered his lower self behaves antagonistically like an enemy. The Supreme Spirit is rooted in the knowledge of the self-controlled man, whose mind is perfectly serene in the midst of pairs of opposites, such as cold and heat, joy and sorrow, and honor and ignominy. The yogi, whose mind is seated with jnana, knowledge of the Nirgun Brahma, and Vijnan, knowledge of manifest divinity, who is unmoved under any circumstances, whose senses are completely under control, and to whom earth, stone, and gold are all alike, is spoken of as a God-realized soul. He who looks upon well-wishers and neutrals, as well as mediators, friends and foes, relatives and inimicals, the virtuous and the sinful, with equanimity stands supreme. Living in seclusion all by himself, the yogi who has controlled his mind and body and is free from desires and void of possessions should constantly engage his mind in meditation. Having firmly set his seat in a spot which is free from dirt and other impurities, with the sacred kusha grass, a deer skin and a cloth spread thereon, one upon the other, kusha below, deer skin in the middle, and cloth uppermost, neither very high nor very low. And occupying that seat, concentrating the mind and controlling the functions of the mind and senses, he should practice yoga for self-purification. Holding the trunk, head and neck straight and steady, remaining firm and fixing the gaze on the tip of his nose without looking in other directions. Firm in the vow of complete chastity and fearless, keeping himself perfectly calm and with the mind held in restraint and fixed on me, the vigilant yogi should sit absorbed in me. Thus, constantly applying his mind to me, the yogi of disciplined mind attains everlasting peace, consisting of supreme bliss which abides in me. Arjun, this yoga is neither for him who overeats, nor for him who observes complete fast. It is neither for him who is given to too much sleep, nor even for him who is ceaselessly awake. Yoga, which rids one of woe, is accomplished only by him who is regulated in diet and recreation, regulated in performing actions, and regulated in sleep and wakefulness. When the mind, which is thoroughly disciplined, gets riveted on God alone, then the person who is free from yearning for all enjoyments is said to be established in yoga. As a flame does not flicker in a windless place, such is stated to be the picture of the disciplined mind of the yogi practicing meditation on God. The state in which the chit, subdued through the practice of yoga, becomes passive, and in which realizing God through subtle reasoning, purified by meditation on God, the soul rejoices only in God. Nay, in which the soul experiences the eternal and supersensuous joy, which can be intuited only through the subtle and purified intellect, and wherein established the yogi moves not from truth on any account, and having obtained which, he does not reckon any other gain as greater than that, and established in which he is not shaken even by the heaviest of sorrows. That state called yoga, which is free from the contact of sorrow in the form of transmigration, should be known. Nay, this yoga should be resolutely practiced with an unwearied mind. Completely renouncing all desires arising from sankalpas, and fully restraining all the senses from all sides by the mind, he should through gradual practice attain tranquility, and fixing the mind on God through reason controlled by steadfastness, he should not think of anything else.
Yato yato nischarati manaschanchalamasthiram tatastato niyamyai tadatmanaiva vasham nayet prashantamanasam hyenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmabhutamakalmasham yunjannevam sadatmanam yogi vigatakalmashaha सुखेन ब्रह्म संस्पर्शम् अत्यन्तं सुखमश्नुते सर्वभूतस्थमात्मानं सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि ईक्षते योगयुक्तात्मा सर्वत्र समदर्शनः यो मां पश्यति सर्वत्र सर्वं च मयि पश्यति तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि स च मे न प्रणश्यति सर्वभूतस्थितं यो मां भजत्येकत्वमास्थितः सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि स योगी मयि वर्तते आत्मौपम्येन सर्वत्र समं पश्यति योऽर्जुन सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं स योगी परमो मतः अर्जुन उवाच योऽयं योगस्त्वया प्रोक्तः साम्येन मधुसूदन एतस्याहं न पश्यामि चञ्चलत्वात् स्थितिं स्थिराम् चञ्चलं हि मनः कृष्ण प्रमाथि बलवृद्धृढम् तस्याहं निग्रहं मन्ये वायोरिव सुदुष्करम् श्रीभगवानुवाच असंशयं महाबाहो मनो दुर्निग्रहं चलम् अभ्यासेन तु कौन्तेय वैराग्येण च गृह्यते असंयतात्मना योगो दुष्प्राप इति मे मतिः पश्चात्मना तु यतता शक्यो वाप्तुमुपायतः अर्जुन उवाच अयति श्रद्धयोपेतो योगाच्चलितमानसः अप्राप्य योगसंसिद्धिं कां गतिं कृष्ण गच्छति कच्छिन्नो भयविभ्रष्टः छिन्नाभ्रमिव नश्यति अप्रतिष्ठो महाबाहो विमूढो ब्रह्मणः पथि ये तन्मे संशयं कृष्ण छेतुमर्हस्य शेषतः त्वदन्यः संशयस्यास्य छेत्ता न ह्युपपद्यते श्रीभगवानुवाच पार्थ नैवेह विनाशस्तस्य विद्यते न हि कल्याणकृत् कश्चित् दुर्गतिं तात गच्छति प्राप्य पुण्यकृतां लोकान् उषित्वा शाश्वतिः समाः शुचीनां श्रीमतां गेहे योगभ्रष्टोऽभिजायते अथवा योगिनामेव कुले भवति धीमताम् एतद्धि दुर्लभतरं लोके जन्म यदीदृशम् तत्र तं बुद्धिसंयोगं लभते पौर्वदैहिकम् यतते च ततो भूयः संसिद्धौ कुरु नन्दन पूर्वाभ्यासेन तेनैव ह्रियते ह्यवशोऽपि सः जिज्ञासुरपि योगस्य शब्दब्रह्माति वर्तते प्रयत्नाद्यतमानस्तु योगी संशुद्धकिल्बिषः अनेकजन्म संसिद्धः ततो याति परां गतिम् तपस्विभ्योऽधिको योगी ज्ञानिभ्योऽपि मतोऽधिकः कर्मिभ्यश्चाधिको योगी तस्माद्योगी भवार्जुन योगिनामपि सर्वेषा मद्गतेनान्तरात्मना श्रद्धावान् भजते यो मां स मे युक्ततमो मतः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे आत्मसंयमयोगो नाम षष्ठोऽध्यायः।
Drawing back the restless and fidgety mind from all those objects after which it runs, he should repeatedly fix it on God. For to the yogi whose mind is perfectly serene, who is sinless, whose passion is subdued, and who is identified with Brahma, the embodiment of truth, knowledge, and bliss, supreme happiness comes as a matter of course. The sinless yogi, thus uniting himself constantly with God, easily enjoys the eternal bliss of oneness with Brahma. The yogi, who is united in identity with the all-pervading infinite consciousness, whose vision everywhere is even, beholds the self existing in all beings and all beings as assumed in the self. He who sees me, the universal self, present in all beings and all beings existing within me, he is never lost to me, nor am I ever lost to him. The yogi who is established in union with me and worships me as residing in all beings as their very self, though engaged in all forms of activities, dwells in me. Arjun, he who looks on all as one, on the analogy of his own self, and looks upon the joy and sorrow of all equally, such a yogi is deemed to be the highest of all. Arjun said, Krishna, owing to restlessness of mind, I do not perceive the stability of this yoga in the form of equanimity, which you have just spoken of. For Krishna, the mind is very unsteady, turbulent, tenacious, and powerful. Therefore, I consider it as difficult to control as the wind. Sri Bhagwan said, the mind is restless, no doubt, and difficult to curb, Arjun, but it can be brought under control by repeated practice of meditation and by the exercise of dispassion, O son of Kunti. Yoga is difficult of achievement by one whose mind is not subdued by him. However, who has the mind under control and is ceaselessly striving, it can be easily attained through practice. Such is my conviction. Arjun said, Krishna, what becomes of the aspirant who, though endowed with faith, has not been able to subdue his passions and whose mind is therefore diverted from yoga at the time of death, and who thus fails to reach perfection in yoga or God realization? Krishna swerved from the path leading to God realization, and without anything to stand upon, is he not lost like the scattered cloud, deprived of both God realization and heavenly enjoyment? Krishna, only you are capable to remove this doubt of mine completely, for none other than you can dispel this doubt. Sri Bhagwan said, Dear Arjun, there is no fall for him either here or hereafter. For, O my beloved, none who strives for self-redemption, that is God realization, ever meets with evil destiny. Such a person who has strayed from yoga obtains the higher worlds to which men of meritorious deeds alone are entitled, and having resided there for innumerable years, takes birth of pious and prosperous parents. Or, if he is possessed of dispassion, then not attaining to those regions, he is born in the family of enlightened yogis. But such a birth in this world is very difficult to obtain. Arjun, he automatically regains in that birth the spiritual insight of his previous birth, and through that he strives harder than ever for perfection in the form of God realization. The other one, who takes birth in a rich family, though under the sway of his senses, feels drawn towards God by force of the habit acquired in his previous birth. Nay, even the seeker of enlightenment on yoga in the form of even-mindedness transcends the fruit of actions performed with some interested motive as laid down in the Vedas. The yogi, however, who diligently takes up the practice, attains perfection in this very life with the help of latencies of many births, and being thoroughly purged of sin, forthwith reaches the supreme state. The yogi is superior to the ascetics. He is regarded superior even to those versed in sacred law. The yogi is also superior to those who perform action with the same interested motive. Therefore, Arjuna, do become a yogi. Of all yogis, again, he who devoutly worships me with his mind focused on me is considered by me to be the best yogi. Thus, in the Upanishad sung by the Lord, the science of Brahma, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjun ends the 6th chapter entitled The Yoga of Self-Control.
अथ सप्तमोऽध्यायः विज्ञानयोगः श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यासक्तमनः पार्थ योगं युञ्जन्मदाश्रयः असंशयं समग्रं मां यथा ज्ञास्यसि तच्छृणु ज्ञानं तेऽहं सविज्ञानम् इदं वक्ष्याम्यशेषतः यज्ञात्वा नेह भूयोऽन्यज्ञातव्यम् अवशिष्यते मनुष्याणां सहस्रेषु कच्चिद्यतति सिद्धये यततामपि सिद्धानां कश्चिन्मां वेति तत्त्वतः भूमिरापो नलो वायुः खं मनो बुद्धिरेव च अहंकार इतीयं मे भिन्ना प्रकृतिरष्टधा अपरेयमितस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परां जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत् एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृष्णस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा मत्तः परतरं नान्यत् किञ्चिदस्ति धनञ्जय मयि सर्वमिदं प्रोतं सूत्रे मणिगणा इव रसोऽहमप्सु कौन्तेय प्रभास्मि शशिसूर्ययोः प्रणवः सर्ववेदेषु शब्दखे पौरुषं ऋषु पुण्यो गन्धः पृथिव्यां च तेजश्चास्मि विभावसौ जीवनं सर्वभूतेषु तपश्चास्मि तपस्विषु बीजं मां सर्वभूतानां विद्धि पार्थ सनातनम् बुद्धिर्बुद्धिमतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम् बलं बलवतां चाहं कामरागविवर्जितम् धर्माविरुद्धो भूतेषु कामोऽस्मि भरतर्षभ ये चैव सात्विका भावा राजसास्तामसाश्च ये मत्त एवेति तान् विद्धि न त्वहं तेषु ते मयि त्रिभिर्गुणमयैर्भावैरेभिः सर्वमिदं जगत् मोहितं नाभिजानाति मामेभ्यः परमव्ययम् दैवी ह्येषा गुणमयी मम माया दुरत्यया मामेव ये प्रपद्यन्ते मायामेतां तरन्ति ते न मां दुष्कृतिनो मूढाः प्रपद्यन्ते नराधमाः माययापहृतज्ञाना आसुरं भावमाश्रिताः.
Chapter 7, Translation. Sri Bhagavan said, Arjun, now listen how with the mind attached to me through exclusive love and practicing yoga with absolute dependence on me, you will know me, the repository of all power, strength and glory and other attributes, the universal soul, in entirety and without any shadow of doubt. I shall unfold to you in its entirety this wisdom, knowledge of God in his absolute formless aspect, along with the knowledge of the qualified aspect of God, both with form and without form, having known which nothing else remains yet to be known in this world. Hardly one among thousands of men strives to realize me. Of those striving yogis, again, some rare one, devoting himself exclusively to me, knows me in reality. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, reason, and also ego. These constitute my nature divided into 8 parts. This indeed is my lower nature, the material nature. The other than this, by which the whole universe is sustained, know it to be my higher or spiritual nature in the form of Jeev, the life principle, O Arjun. Arjun, know that all beings have evolved from this twofold Prakriti, and that I am the source of this entire creation, and into me again it dissolves. There is nothing else besides me, Arjun. Like clusters of yarn beads formed by knots on a thread, all this is threaded on me. Arjun, I am the sap in water and the radiance of the moon and the sun. I am the sacred syllable Om in all the Vedas, the sound in ether and virility in men. I am the pure odor, the subtle principles of smell in the earth, and the brightness in fire. Nay, I am the life in all beings and austerity in the ascetics. Arjun, know me, the eternal seed of all beings. I am the intelligence of the intelligent. The glory of the glorious am I. Arjun, of the mighty I am the might, free from passion and desire. In beings I am the sexual desire, not conflicting with virtue or scriptural injunctions. Whatever other entities there are, born of sattva, the quality of goodness, and those that are born of rajas, the principle of activity, and tamas, the principle of inertia, know them all as evolved from me alone. In reality, however, neither do I exist in them, nor do they in me. The whole of this creation is deluded by these objects evolved from the three modes of Prakriti, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. That is why the world fails to recognize me, standing apart from these, the imperishable. For this most wonderful Maya of mine, consisting of the three gunas or modes of nature, is extremely difficult to break through. Those, however, who constantly adore me alone are able to cross it. Those whose wisdom has been carried away by Maya and are of demoniac nature, such foolish and vile men of evil deeds do not adore me.
चतुर्विधा भजन्ते मां जनाः सुकृतिनोऽर्जुनः आर्तो जिज्ञासुरर्थार्थी ज्ञानी च भरतर्षभ तेषां ज्ञानी नित्ययुक्त एकभक्तिर्विशिष्यते प्रियो हि ज्ञानिनोत्यर्थम् अहं स च मम प्रियः उदाराः सर्व एवैते ज्ञानी त्वात्मैव मे मतम् आस्थितः स हि युक्तात्मा मामेवानुत्तमां गतिम् बहूनां जन्मनामन्ते ज्ञानवान् मां प्रपद्यते वासुदेवः सर्वमिति स महात्मा सुदुर्लभः कामैस्तैस्तैर्हृतज्ञानाः प्रपद्यन्तेऽन्यदेवताः तं तं नियममास्थाय प्रकृत्या नियताः स्वया यो यो यां यां तनुं भक्तः श्रद्धयार्चितुमिच्छति तस्य तस्याचलां श्रद्धां तामेव विदधाम्यहम् स तया श्रद्धया युक्तः तस्याराधनमीहते लभते च ततः कामान् मयैव विहितान् हितान् अन्तवत्तु फलं तेषां तद्भवत्यल्पमेधसां देवान् देवयजो यान्ति मद्भक्ता यान्ति मामपि अव्यक्तं व्यक्तिमापन्नं मन्यन्ते मामबुद्धयः परं भावमजानन्तो ममाव्ययमनुत्तमम् नाहं प्रकाशः सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको मामजमव्ययम् वेदाहं समतीतानि वर्तमानानि चार्जुन भविष्याणि च भूतानि मां तु वेद न कश्चन इच्छाद्वेषसमुत्थेन द्वन्द्वमोहेन भारत सर्वभूतानि सम्मोहं सर्गे यान्ति परन्तप येषां त्वन्तगतं पापं जनानां पुण्यकर्मणां ते द्वन्द्वमोहनिर्मुक्ता भजन्ते मां दृढव्रता जरामरणमोक्षाय मामाश्रित्य यतन्ति ये ते ब्रह्म त्वद्विदुकृत्स्नम् अध्यात्मं कर्म चाखिलम् साधिभूताधिदैवं मां साधियज्ञं च ये विदुः प्रयाणकालेऽपि च मां ते विदुर्युक्तचेतसः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे विज्ञानयोगो नाम सप्तमोऽध्यायः।
Four types of devotees of noble deeds worship me, Arjun: the seeker after worldly possessions, the afflicted, the seeker for knowledge, and the man of wisdom, O best of Bharatas. Of these, the best is the man of wisdom, ever established in identity with me and possessed of exclusive devotion. For I am extremely dear to the wise man who knows me in reality and he is extremely dear to me. Indeed, all these are noble, but the man of wisdom is my very self. Such is my view. For such a devotee who has his mind and intellect merged in me is firmly established in me alone as the highest goal. In the very last of all births, the enlightened person worships me by realizing that all this is God. Such a great soul is very rare indeed. Those whose wisdom has been carried away by various desires, being prompted by their own nature, worship other deities, adopting norms relating to each. Whatever celestial form a devotee, craving for some worldly object, chooses to worship with reverence, I stabilize the faith of that particular devotee in that very form. Endowed with such faith, he worships that particular deity and obtains through that deity without doubt his desired enjoyments as ordained by me. The fruit gained by these people of small understanding, however, is perishable. The worshippers of gods attain the gods, whereas my devotees, howsoever they worship me, eventually come to me and me alone. Not knowing my supreme nature, unsurpassable and undecaying, the ignorant persons regard me, who am the supreme spirit, beyond the reach of mind and senses, and the embodiment of truth, knowledge, and bliss, to have assumed a finite form through birth as an ordinary human being. Veiled by my Yog Maya, divine potency, I am not manifest to all. Hence, these ignorant folk fail to recognize me, the birthless and imperishable supreme deity, that is, consider me as subject to birth and death. Arjun, I know all beings past as well as present, nay, even those that are yet to come, but none devoid of faith and devotion knows me. O valiant Arjun, through delusion in the shape of pairs of opposites such as pleasure and pain, born of desire and aversion, all living creatures in this world are falling a prey to infatuation. But those men of virtuous deeds whose sins have come to an end, being freed from delusion in the shape of pairs of opposites born of attraction and repulsion, worship me with a firm resolve in every way. They who, having taken refuge in me, strive for deliverance from old age and death, know Brahma, the whole Adhyatma, the totality of jivas or embodied souls, and the entire field of karma or action, as well as my integral being comprising Adhibhuta, the field of matter, Adhideva, Brahma, and Adhiyagna, the unmanifest divinity dwelling in the heart of all beings as their witness. And they who possessed of a steadfast mind know thus even at the hour of death, they too know me alone. Thus, in the Upanishad sung by the Lord, the science of Brahma, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjun ends the 7th chapter entitled The Yoga of Jnana, knowledge of Nirgun Brahma, and Vijnan, knowledge of manifest divinity.
Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.